Dr. Manock, David Manock, my mentor and supervisor. David Manock has been married to his wife, Brenda, since 1975. He was born and raised in Japan, having been adopted at the age of 9. He is Eurasian. His biological mother is Japanese, and his father is an American with a Scandinavian background. He received a scholarship to the University of Oregon and competed as an NCAA varsity gymnast. Eventually, after time in the Army, Dr. Manock went to seminary and was ordained a Presbyterian minister in 1977. Dr. Manock pursued psychotherapy with another master's degree and eventually a doctorate in psychology. And Dr. Manock has been working with clients since the early 1980s. He is the founder of the Integrative Counseling Institute, where they integrate neuroscience, psychology, and incarnational theology to provide transformation for brain, mind, and relationships. So thanks for being here with us, David. First up, neuroscience and the family. And this is a kind of an interesting topic here. But Dr. Manock, as I've been studying under you, you pointed me to Dr. Daniel Siegel's series of lectures called The Neurobiology of We. Dr. Siegel was the chair of the think tank at UCLA with 40 other PhDs as they studied thousands of brain scans for 5 years. That's a lot of brain scans. From that, they developed some of the most formidable psychological research. And in that research, they speak about the first 5 years of life and the biological parents' roles. Can you share with us what the neuroscience and of the brain scans tell us about the role of the biological father and the biological mother?
Sure. And for the sake of our conversation, please call me David. I'm not terribly formal. So the nice thing about getting old is you stop worrying about what people think of you. So I'm in a great place in life by God's grace, right?
Awesome.
The 1990s is considered a decade of the brain because we started to scan the human brain. And we did, some of us in research, we threw up our hands, I for one, because we realized that everything we've been teaching people psychologically before brain scan was wrong, not at one point, at every single point. Because before brain scan, we used to think the brain was about some internal process, and then from that process, it goes out to people and relationships and internalizes relationships and then goes out to other relationships. We got it totally backwards. Your brain is not scanning you first. It's designed by God to scan the relationship, then internalizing it, then go out to people. So every time you go out to a person, you carry memory chips, which has body memory, has emotional color coding, and all kinds of other complicated neural circuitry. That's why racism is really hard to crack, because it's got neural circuitries about history and relationship. And I think we're trying to overcome horrific history, and without God's grace, I don't see how we can do that. So brain scan, and so before brain scan, we used to teach people, be independent, know yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself, then you can have good relationships. It doesn't work that way. Your brain is a relational brain. It's not about you. It's about the other person in an interaction of the relationship. And we Christians, we know that because it's called Genesis 2. It's not good that man be alone, right? So Adam be alone, so God creates. Now, if I was doing a sidebar with the Lord standing nearby, I'm going to tap Jesus on his shoulder and says, sorry, I have a question. You said about Adam you just created. He's a perfect creature in a perfect place with a perfect God. And you say, it's not good? What? What's not good? And then Eve is created. And of course, Adam's first words when he sees Eve is, bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh, Isha, woman, Ish, man. And that's a nice poetic way to say, there's me. and brain scan revealed two-person psychology, not one-person psychology. One-person psychology says self-identity, self-worth, self-efficacy, self-agency, total myth. And then based upon that, we say, don't be codependent, another myth. And independence is a myth. We're interdependent creatures designed by God for two-person psychology, and who you are is brought to you not from within you, but from the other person. And we as Christians understand that because St. Paul brilliantly says, who you are is now hid in Christ. In other words, Jesus and you, the relationship in Jesus is holding who you are. You don't know who you are until you start interacting with Jesus. And at the end of chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, now we see through a darkened mirror, but then face to face, we will know as we're known. So brain scan, for me, confirmed the neuro-emotional wiring. And your mom is the primary electrician that wires you in for relationship in the first 5 years. Then your brain goes through 3 stages of infant amnesia, which is like this house that my wife and I live in. The original electrician wired it for electricity, as evidenced by light, heat, air conditioning, oven, sound, batteries, and so forth. Those would be emotions. A mom's electrician in the first 5 years, but your brain reboots in 3 stages of infant amnesia, and we don't know why the brain reboots, but that's like putting on sheetrock. After the electrician's finished wiring the house, with the sheetrock, we can't see how you're wired, but we know from neuroscience how to understand how a person's wired for relationship. Now, very good news. Relationship with God and good relationship with a spouse or good relationships in a church can help rewire. So when I see the protesters outside and so forth, I say to myself, yeah, they're operating out of deep fear and anger and bad neurological wiring, and they need God to wire them in. So brain scan helps me to understand the structure, mechanics, and dynamic. Then I'm trying to translate that into helping people clinically, and then trying to help people since I'm also a pastor. So
yeah, thank you, David.
Thanks.
So in that you said in the first 5 years of life, the biological mother wires the child for relationship, and the biological father wires the child for identity, right?
Yes, the second part is really hard to find if you do Google search, because currently the feminist psychologists won't let you say that. They'll tear you apart. So you see almost nothing. It's a dirty little secret in psychology. We know that identity doesn't come from the mother, relational strategies. So if you grew up as a child and your mom, when you saw your mom in conflict with a neighbor, she would withdraw and get depressed. Guess what? That's being wired in. You may be in a reactive position, so I'm not going to do that. But you can't keep, a mom lays into you in the first 5 years relational strategies. Identity comes from your father. As I said, we don't know why. But we also know that fathers who physically wrestle with their kids will impact the kids in 70 with 70 plus impact, positive impacts, and there are 10 crucial impacts. And you can correlate depression, intelligence, ADD, ADHD, and other things to kids not having been wrestled with. Kids have to be physically handled, touched, wrestled by their fathers, not the mothers. And it wires them in significant ways. There are two huge things we've got to try to overcome. Help males to become fathers. If you're not a biological father, just be an adoptive father, adopt a kid. Come alongside a single lady and say, hey, can I help here? Take the kids out to the park. And of course, with sexual abuse and so forth, we have to be really careful with that. But prisons are full of males in particular who have never been wrestled with in childhood.
Yeah.
And we have 30, 40 years of research to back this up. This is just not a popular thought.
Wow.
And I can send you a YouTube clip if you want that reviews the research.
The question I've been wondering about, and this theory I've kind of wondered about, is the latest research shows that anywhere between 60 and 80%, there's different numbers that are put out there, but the one I found that I could find most credibly was 68.5% of children in the Black community grow up without their biological father. The Black Lives Matter mantra has really, I've been just pondering that, and it's been echoing in my mind. And the word that really strikes me is the word matter. And matter is a sense of value and worth and identity. To matter is a sense of belonging, right? And so the question I have, and kind of my theory is, could it be that we have over 2/3 of an entire ethnic community missing the wiring to understand and experience their identity and value?